There are so many other ways to create content for your podcast than to simply fall back on the interview style format. I see so many podcasters out there who they just go that route. They want to send it to interview other speakers, other experts, other entrepreneurs. And while that can be great, it can also be at best, a very subpar way and just not the best strategy, or at worst, it can just simply be lazy content creation. You can simply almost be phoning it in if all you're doing is doing interviews. So I want to challenge you here on today's episode to consider some of the other types of content creation that you can do. What are some of the other formats that you can have for your episodes? We're going to dive into 4 of those today on the power of podcasting. Hello and welcome to this episode of The Power of Podcasting. My name is Nick Palkowski and I am the host of The Power of Podcasting and the founder of Your Podcast Guru. And I am very excited that you could join us today because we're going to be diving into a topic that I'm very passionate about, something I believe when done strategically, when done correctly, will actually help you build an audience, help increase your authority, and help you make more sales. And I think it's a topic that is too often overlooked by podcasters, or a consideration that is too often overlooked because they simply default to what they're used to. So we're going to talk about the 4 types of episodes I believe you should be creating when you're going out and launching a podcast, when you're running your show. There are 4 distinct types of episodes, so we'll dive into what they are and why you want to use them. So let's dive right on in. But actually, before we dive in, I want to mention if you want to grab the download, the resource guide for this episode, I want you to remember download 43. So if you are on Facebook Live, simply type the word download 43 in the comments. You'll get a message from our group you'll get a message from the page that will have further instructions on how you can access that. If you want to, if you're on anywhere else, you can head over to yourpodcastguru.com/download43. Or even if you want to text the word download 43 to 44222. Again, the number's 44222. That guide is really going to walk you through what these 4 episode types are and why you should consider creating them and using them, and just how you can actually implement them in your show currently. So now with that out of the way, be sure to go grab that resource. But then we're going to dive into the very first one, which is teaching episodes. So this is the type of content that so many people think of when this is that kind of solo episode where it's just you and the microphone. Maybe if you happen to have a co-host on your show, it's both of you, but you have a topic, you have something you want to talk about, you have something you want to share with your audience. And so it's you diving in and really giving some bullet points, giving some strategies, and helping them walk you through. Now there's several different variations on the teaching episodes. There can be the very informal conversation where it's you just kind of doing a loose outline or doing some overview kind of theories and strategies. I'd consider today of this episode for the power of podcasting a little more. It is definitely a teaching episode, but it is a little more of the overarching strategy type of content, versus on the other side, you can have a very how-to type of content where you're really diving in, where you're giving tons of resources, you're giving very specific how-to instructions in order to implement a strategy. That's kind of the spectrum of the teaching episodes, and I definitely think you're going to want to have the teaching episode as part of your podcast content strategy. The reason is because these type of episodes, one, they'll just resonate with certain people in a different way, and people will really, I see a lot of people really gravitating towards these type of episodes, especially when, on both sides, the very strategy, kind of overarching side, but also the very how-to side. There are people who really love each of those. But another big reason is because ultimately what you want to do with your podcast, our main goal here is to help you grow a business, help you get more clients, help you get more customers. And the best way to do that is to really set yourself up as an expert and as an authority, as someone who has answers or can at least guide people down the right path, the things that they should be considering. And the teaching episodes are really the best way to do that. This is you giving value, giving information in a very direct, very specific way, so people are going to naturally see you as that authority. So if you have any questions along the way, be sure to leave those in a comment and let me know. Do you like the teaching style episodes? Just simply leave a yes or no in the comments. Let me know if you are a fan of teaching episodes. And what I have here, a question from Sharon is, what if you have already started your podcast as an interview style podcast? Well, to be honest, one of the really nice things is, we're going to be talking a little bit about interview style in just a second. I think you want to have a component of all of them. And with podcasting, a super nice benefit is there really are no rules. So you can change things up. You can switch things around midstream. So after we kind of go through all these type of episodes, I'll dive even into some more specifics in terms of what your strategy, how often you should be doing every one of these at the end here. But feel free, you can change it. You have the power to actually make the show what you want to be. So I just want to empower you and let you know that this is your show. This is something you're creating. So even if you started and have done 120 interview-only episodes, well, you can start testing, mixing in some of these other formats, mixing in maybe one of the later ones that we're going to be talking to here that's still sort of an interview-ish, but slightly different, and then mixing in some of these solo teaching episodes as well. So, talked about teaching episodes, but now the next one is to dive in and very specifically to do interviews. So yes, I absolutely think you want to have interviews with thought leaders, with experts, with influencers as part of your strategy. And there's several reasons for this. One is because they're going to be able to give a different perspective to your audience. And ultimately, what you want to do with your podcast is you want to be of value to your audience. You want to be serving your audience and really inspiring them, helping them move forward, helping them solve a problem, helping them get some results in their life and their business. So that's your overall objective. And if the best way to do that is to bring in a new perspective, to bring in a new thought leader, that is a great way to go. And I definitely think you should be bringing in at least an interview on an occasional basis. So with that said, another great thing that interviews do is it does make it a little bit easier on you as a content creator. You're not having to outline and plan a full episode, because I know there are some podcasters out there who script out, outline, and need to have very detailed instructions for a very detailed flow for their episode in order to deliver that effectively. And that can be a lot of work. While I recommend that you stick with kind of that weekly format when you're getting going, getting used to content creation, that can be a drain for anybody. You are going to want to, just having an interview is a little bit easier. You're still going to want to, you'll still want to prep. You want to either know the person personally, or you want to have some idea of the questions or the directions you're going to want to lead the episode. But it requires a lot less work because your interviewee is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. You get to be in the moment and just asking a lot of questions that are important, that are happening there in the moment, and really listening and just clarifying things for your audience so that they can get the most out of that interviewee's insights and expertise. Now, the third big piece of why you want to add interviews as part of your podcasting strategy is just simply because it's going to help grow your audience, especially when you find interviewees who are willing to share your podcast episode. So interviewees with audience of some size, they don't even necessarily need to have the biggest email list or the biggest social media following, because honestly, a lot of times those people won't share the episode out. But if you can find an interviewee, an influencer who fits well with your show, who can deliver great value, and you have them on as a guest, and then they share that episode with their audience, you're going to get a certain amount of people are going to naturally go and listen to that episode because they want to hear what your interviewee has to say. And then there'll be a certain percentage of them that are going to like your style, that are going to like your show, going to listen to maybe another episode. And then if they like that episode, they might subscribe and become loyal fans and followers of yours. That's ultimately the big dream. The only way that happens is if you, one, line up the right people, you have them and set them up in a way so that they can deliver the best content possible. So that means letting them know what you're going to be talking about ahead of time. That means possibly sending them questions ahead of time, really prepping them as much as that interviewee needs. And then being in the moment, really asking great questions and making sure you're getting the most out of that interview and having it geared in a way that it really benefits your audience. If you do those two things, the third key piece to really getting your interviewee to share the episode out is to make it as easily for them to share, make it as easy for them to share as humanly possible. Like, I'm talking stupidly easy. You're going to, when the interview goes live, you're going to want to possibly even ahead of time, you're going to want to send a thank you note, maybe even a little gift, letting them know that you appreciated them coming on and being a guest on your episode. But then the day it's released, you're going to want to send them an email with everything they possibly need to share that episode. So we like to include links to every platform where the podcast episode is. We like to share the embed of the audio so that all they have to do is grab that and embed it in their own blog post if they would like. We like to share graphics with them. What we will do with clients is we'll create a main episode image, but then we'll also pull out quotes that they say and create quote graphics for that. We call them insight images. So we'll create 2 to 3 of those. We'll send those to the interviewee. We'll also set things up so that they just have to click a button to tweet to make that, again, as easy for them as possible. And we'll even go as far as include pre-written social media and even pre-written email content in there so that, again, it can be so easy for them to just copy, paste, maybe do some tweaks if they would like, but we want to make it as easy for your interviewee to share as possible because that's how you're going to quickly grow an audience. So there you have it. That is the interview episode. I definitely think that should be a part of every single person's strategy in terms of content creation. Now, so we covered teaching episodes, interview episodes. The third one that you really want to include is the case study episodes. These can be extremely powerful. So, what is a case study episode? A case study is where you are having someone from your audience, or maybe even a coaching client or past client of some sort, come onto your podcast episode and you are interviewing them. You're just asking them questions about and kind of showing the before and after of them implementing one of the strategies that you talked about. So maybe you run a service business. That could very simply be talking to a client about what things were like before they started working with your company. You could talk about even the strategies that you implemented and some of the things, and ideally try to get your client to do some of the talking about the strategies that you implemented, and then talking about the results, the after piece, what they're getting from the services that you're implementing. Another way is even having a podcast listener. If someone emails you or reaches out to you in some way and says thank you, or that they did this and it's resulted in this, you should have them on your podcast episode, potentially on an episode where you're going to talk about, okay, what was things like before you implemented that strategy, before you started using it? What exactly was the strategy that you used? What were some of the nuances to it? And what were the results that you were getting? Really what you're doing here, and the reason these can be so powerful, is because you are showing that people are taking action and getting results off of the things you're teaching, off of the stuff you're teaching in your solo episodes or the business that you run. People are actually getting results and moving forward and progressing because of you. That is what is kind of being implied here. There's a couple other benefits to this as well. Number one is just it's a great way to have some social proof. You're showing that other people are out there, they're listening to you, they're taking action on the stuff that you are saying, and that is another great form of social proof because it shows that, hey, yes, this advice and the things that you are teaching as an expert are worth implementing, are worth actually doing and moving forward with, which is a huge benefit to you and gives your audience confidence in implementing the stuff that you are teaching. Another great thing is that it is a way of creating engagement with your audience. On a podcast, especially just an audio formatted podcast, it can be very, very difficult to get people to take action, to get people to engage. There isn't an easy way to create engagement with a podcast, to be honest. Most people are out there listening while they're driving, while they're doing the dishes, while they're running or exercising. So they're not going to pick up their phone and leave a comment. And by the time they finish that episode, they probably forgot about what they wanted to engage with, or the question that you asked, or the URL that you sent them to. By bringing on an audience member, by bringing on someone who is a part of the community, who is a part of the listening community, you are essentially highlighting the entire community. You're highlighting all of your audience by doing that. And so that's a great way for them to feel a little bit of pride in the person who you are featuring. Now, you're probably not going to be able to always highlight every single success story as your audience grows. You're going to be getting more and more and more of them. But if you can every so often highlight one of them, you're going to give a confidence boost to all of your audience, and they're going to start taking action. Honestly, some of the best people who I've seen do this is Jeremy and Jason from Internet Business Mastery. If you go listen to some of their older episodes especially, they always had the money milestones. And this was just a segment on every single episode that they did. All they did, they didn't even bring the person on, but all they did was highlight one of their coaching members, one of the people who've gone through their courses, and talk about how they made their first dollar online. That is one way to do just a mini case study where maybe you're not blowing it up into an entire episode, but you're just highlighting one person who took action and got some results. Another person who I just saw do this was Grant Baldwin for the Speaker Lab podcast. He just had Dr. Sue, she's a veterinarian, just had her on talking about the strategy she put in place and the results that she's getting from his paid course. I don't see enough podcasters doing this because the case studies are extremely powerful. We all want to. I know those are some of my favorite episodes formats. That is my favorite one. If I had to pick one, it's these case study episodes, and I want to really encourage you to start doing some of those with your podcast. All right, so that is number 3, case studies. Be sure to add those into the mix of your podcast. The fourth one is experiential. Now, this one can be a little bit difficult to implement depending on where you are in your business. If you're purely just starting out, it might be tough. But it is something I want you to keep in mind and something I want you to work for. So what do I mean by experiential? Really, it's where you are kind of giving your audience, your listening audience, an experience. They're getting a chance to to go behind the scenes and see you and kind of talk to you about, or like hear you talk through a process that you're running in your business. So for me, what I might do is maybe I would have another camera kind of back over here recording me or talking to that camera as I kind of go through and edit a podcast, or I do one of these live streams. It's kind of showing the behind the scenes. That's one great way to do it, is to show the creation of the work you do. Another great way would be, let's say you're a coach. Well, you could record a coaching session. Obviously, the person you're coaching needs to be okay with it, having their episode featured, because a lot of times they're talking about sensitive stuff, so they might not want to. You definitely want to give people a heads up if you're going to record a coaching session and share that with the world. So be sure to do that. Give them the chance to give the thumbs up or say no. But that's a great way to do this experiential type. Or, for example, if you are giving a keynote presentation, record the keynote presentation, and you might not necessarily want to deliver the whole thing in your podcast episode. Or what you could do is, so you could do segments, but then dive even deeper into some of those segments, or pause the keynote presentation and go deeper, do like a voiceover type thing where you're going then deeper into what you're thinking, why you added this to your presentation. Again, you're giving them an experience of being in the room where you gave that keynote presentation, but you're also giving them a little bit extra. You're taking them behind the scenes and showing them your thought process again. So that's another great way. Another opportunity would be to record a segment of a mastermind group where then you're going to just kind of give people, let them feel like they are in the room. That's really what these experiential episodes are all about, is giving people that experience, let them feel like they're in the room with you and a part of the environment with you. The reason these are effective is because it's a great way just to spice things up and give a different feel to your podcast. Keep it feeling fresh than just constantly doing interviews every single episode. You're adding this element in. It's going to feel fresh, going to feel new, going to kind of revitalize some of your listener energy. But another really big reason is that it's going to give people an idea of what it's like to work with you. Especially, again, if you are a coach and record a coaching session. They're going to see, they're not going to have questions, okay, what is a coaching session with you like? You just answer that. That can't be an object for them or an objection for them purchasing your coaching program anymore, because they'll know what it's like. They're not going to be hesitant wondering how the experience is going to be. They have gotten a behind the scenes window, a glimpse, without having to be a coaching member. They've gotten to see what that entire process is like. So that's why I really love the experiential factor. So let's quickly run through the 4 episode types again. First, we have teaching episodes. So these are ones where it's just you giving great information. Next, we have interview episodes. This is bringing on a guest, a thought leader, an influencer, an expert, and allowing them to share their story, insights, and advice with your audience. The next one is case studies. This is where you're highlighting your audience members, showing how they are getting results from your strategies, advice, and your insights. And then last, we have experiential. This is where you're giving them that behind-the-scenes exclusive look at everything that you're doing and how your processes are like. It allows them to really experience working with you. So now comes the big question. What if you've already started a show and you are just an interview-only podcast? Well, this is where, like I mentioned to Sharon earlier, you have full control. You can actually you can change things up at any point because this is a podcast and there really are no rules. There's nobody you have to nobody you are beholden to. You can make this show what you want it to be. I highly suggest adding in these 4 types. Now, let's say you are most comfortable in the interview format. You're able to line up guests, no problem. You are still struggling teaching. Well, then for the most part, stick with interviews. Do maybe 3 interviews a month and sprinkle in. The first one I want you to start adding is the teaching episodes. Sprinkle in a teaching episode. So do 4 episodes interview, 1 episode of teaching. And that can be a shorter episode. Again, no rules for podcasting. So you can make your episode shorter. You can make that teaching episode if you are nervous, if you are hesitant about having enough content. Make it a 10-minute episode. Make it a 5-minute episode. Honestly, in the podcasting world, there are episodes that are 60 seconds long. There are people who are building entire brands around 60-second podcast episodes. For the most part, I recommend the 20 to 30 mark, but there are people doing that. There are people doing over an hour episodes. There are people doing over 4-hour episodes. So I don't want you to feel like there is some specific magic number. If you are pressing me to throw a number out there for you, I say 20 to 30 minutes. That's where you should be shooting for. But feel free to go any range that seems right. The big thing is you're adding value and you're keeping your audience entertained and engaged with the value that you're adding to them. So you start sprinkling in some of those teaching episodes. Well, then every so often the next one I would recommend that you do is once you get somebody from your audience who mentioned they got a result from the things that you're teaching, or maybe even this is a past client who's worked with you. If you're a speaker, maybe you go back to an organization or someone who's heard you talk and talk about just simply what they really enjoyed, what they resonated with, what they're still implementing from your talk. But you want to start sprinkling in some of those case studies as well. And then lastly is where I'd bring in the experiential last, because that is usually the one that's going to be hardest for people to capture. But again, if you're out speaking all the time, that's a natural spot. Record your talk, and then you'll have an experiential episode there. If you're coaching all the time, see if you can record one of your coaching clients. It's a great way. Or if you're out doing masterminds, even in your own personal mastermind when you're attending, you could potentially just highlight some of the... You want to be careful with this, but you could potentially even record your own mastermind, your own hot seat in your mastermind group and play that so people can kind of know behind the scenes what you're thinking in terms of content creation, in terms of your business long term. People just love those behind the scene windows. Now, if you are starting from a clean slate, you're just getting going, or you want to dive right in and start implementing all 4 of these, I recommend leaning a little bit heavier on the solo teaching episodes, on the teaching episodes. Now, again, you can mix that up, being a little higher arching strategy to very how-to type episodes. But I would lean a little heavier on those. So maybe two of those a month, and then mix in 1 or 2 interviews a month. Maybe you go 3 teaching episodes and 1 interview in a month, and then occasionally sprinkle in a case study. If you could get a case study up to once a month, that's awesome. I think that's about as much as you'd want to do in terms of case studies. But if you can have 1 of those a month, and then what I would do is occasionally sprinkle in that experiential. So maybe 1 every 6 weeks, 1 every 8 weeks. That's about the format that I would have in terms of sprinkling things in, or simply look at your content calendar in terms of a quarter. That's what I like to do. I like to kind of look at everything overall. Okay, I have a quarter. I have 12 episodes that we're going to be releasing for the podcast. What is the right ratio? What is the thing that we can do? So maybe we only have 1 experiential episode during that quarter, and then I'm going to have 3 case studies, and then the rest are going to be a mix between interview and teaching episodes. Again, there are no exact science to this, but I recommend that you go add all 4. You're going to be that's where you're going to see the best results. So this is a question that I was constantly getting from people, so I wanted to be sure to dive into this, and it's something that I don't see enough people really thinking about. They just simply default to, hey, let's do an interview style podcast, and again, I don't think that's the way to go for most people. Yes, you can have success with it. Yes, it is a component of a solid podcasting strategy, but there's more to it. And we laid out these 4 things. Now, if you want to dive even deeper into some of these, I just want to, first of all, remind everyone that if you want to get the download for this episode resource guide that goes into these a little bit more, just simply, if you're on Facebook, type the word download 43, or you can go yourpodcastguru.com/download 43. That will take you where you can opt in for that. Or if you want to send a text message to 44222, again, number 44222, download 43, that will get you that resource guide as well. I want to make it as easy as possible for you to get that resource guide. And I am also very excited to announce that if you want to continue to learn more about podcasting content, if you are struggling with what your exact strategy should look like, if you're struggling of how to format your teaching episodes or how to put together a solid case study, what you're going to want to do is pay attention to a brand new program that I'm excited to be introducing, which is Podcast University. This is a private membership group it's really a community where we're going to come together, where we're really going to be focused on implementing the things you're learning. Power of Podcasting, we're going to be delivering tons of great free information, free resources, free teaching to you. But I know that if you want to continue to learn, grow, and succeed, you need to be sure that you're implementing. And a lot of times, all this information can feel very overwhelming. You might not necessarily know which strategies you should implement or what the next right step is for you. Well, Podcast University is a great way to become a part of a community and to get regular coaching and help on actually implementing the things you're learning. And so what does Podcast University all include? I want to dive into that here. What you're going to get is you're going to get access to me. You're going to get a private Facebook membership group for your daily help. I'll be in there on a regular basis, answering as many questions as you have, as often as you need. This part I'm super excited about. We are going to have weekly hot seat calls. So this is where you have a question, you have a frustration, a challenge in your business, in your podcast creation that you want help with. Well, you can apply and jump on a call with me and the rest of the community where we're going to help brainstorm strategies, help you come up with those next steps in order to solve your problem. We're also going to have weekly celebration calls. This is something I am very passionate about. I try to every single day do at least my 3 wins, run through those at the end of the day, because I don't think I know for me personally, I don't celebrate the wins enough. I always think of the challenges first, or think of the struggles first, and I don't appreciate and celebrate those wins. Or if I do, there is a win, if I accomplish a big goal, I immediately jump to the next thing. So that's why I want to be sure to include these weekly celebration calls that people can join. All we're going to do is celebrate the wins that we had for the week. There are also going to be monthly masterclass interviews with experts. So I've talked to people like Grant Baldwin, Matt McWilliams, where we're going to dive into how to be a speaker, how to run affiliate marketing, how to just create content, how to do live streaming. We have experts lined up in all these different areas, and you're going to get access to their interviews. And as a big bonus, you're going to get 50% off of any course or workshops that are released. That's something I'm very excited about. So that is everything that is included in Podcast University. Now you might be wondering, how much is this investment? Well, I want to ensure you that right now we are offering a very special deal where you can get kind of our early access for $17 a month. Yes, that's $17 a month. This is a monthly membership, and you can get access to all of this stuff right now today by heading over to Podcast University. Again, that's yourpodcastguru.com/podcastu. All you have to do is head on over there. That's how you're going to get access to everything that I mentioned. And I'm very excited. Hopefully, I will be seeing many of you inside Podcast University. But I just want to let you know that that is now open, that is now available. I'm really excited about this program. And right now is a great time to jump in because, to be honest, it is probably going to be a small group of people initially. So you're going to get a lot of one-on-one time. You're going to get a lot of things really focused, a lot of focused attention on your problems, on your situations, on your frustrations in order to help you move forward. That's the reason that I'm releasing this at such a low price initially. It will be going up here relatively soon. I don't have an exact date for when we're going to raise prices, but we will be raising prices. But you will be locked in at whatever membership price that you join on. And like I said, right now as we launch this, it is $17 a month. So again, head on over to yourpodcastguru.com/podcastu. Again, that's podcastu for Podcast University. Very excited to have you, and I would just want to thank all of you for joining me in this episode. Hopefully you have now you've expanded your mind on the types of podcast episodes that you can create and what you can do with those podcast episodes. Because when done right, when done correctly, it's going to set you up for greater success down the road. It's going to also set you up for more impact and more income. And that's really what I want for you, is I want you to grow an audience, grow a business, and help influence more and impact more people's lives while making an income and a living in the process. Be sure, if you want to join us next week on The Power of Podcasting, you can join us live by heading over to facebook.com/Nick Palkowski. That will take you over to our live group. We go live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central. You can join there. You can ask all your questions, but then you can also find all of the show notes for everything for this episode by heading over to yourpodcastguru.com/043. And with that, it is time for you to go out there, take action, and maximize both your impact and your income.